Yeah, would it be some sort of a pop groove or, country? Sounds like you said you had a lot of those. You talked about the island groove could be really good for you.
Well, I mean, if you write just a killer country song, yeah, sure, I'd be interested in that. It's just got to be better than the ones that I've been picking the creme de la creme of probably over 15 to 18,000 songs over 15 years. So you're going to have to be, but I get them every now and again. I get those landmines that just drop you to your knees and make your jaw fall open because they're just astounding, and it's thrilling to get those,
Yeah.
So I'm open to anything, but if somebody, first of all, I usually tell people, I like songs written from inspiration rather than perspiration. I don't like writers who tell me, like I said earlier, that they've written 500 songs or that they crank out 80 or 90 songs a year, because I know the quality is not going to be there. Even Brad Paisley is only writing 5 or 10 great songs a year. Irving Berlin, he probably wrote 5 or 10, well, maybe 5 good ones a year, but he did it over 20 years, so he's got 100 good ones. Nobody is so prolific that they just knock home runs out of the ballpark every time they get up to bat. I would advise a writer, write 3 great songs a year, because if you write 25 good ones, good songs never get cut. They might get in a TV show as background underscore where people are just kind of looking for a tone or a feel or an ambiance. But in terms of something getting recorded, it's only the landmine, I call them landmines, that get people's attention and cause them to drop songs they've written themselves in favor of something that's going to benefit a total outsider that they don't know.
Great advice. Because,
that's not just for holiday, that's for all songs. And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
You know the song Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas? It was written by Hugh Martin and another guy, I can't remember the other guy's name. It was in Meet Me in St. Louis. The first hit was by Judy Garland.
Mm-hmm.
Even after that song appeared in the 1944 movie Meet Me in St. Louis, Hugh Martin was still rewriting the lyric 10 years later. You can find sheet music books printed in the mid-50s where the lyric is different than it is from the original sheet music that was published in 1944. He was still trying to improve that lyric after it had become one of the all-time best Christmas songs ever.
Amazing. Wow, where'd you get that little bit of research from?
It was pointed up. My song was mentioned in a book called, what was it called? Angels We Have Heard, the Christmas Song Stories. It was a book that profiled about 25 or 30 of the greatest Christmas hits of all time. And he interviewed all the different writers of these songs for the book. It's a beautiful coffee table book. And I think it was in that story that he mentioned, or it was pointed out there, but I'd seen that once before.
That's awesome. I love it. So what are the things that will significantly reduce the likelihood of a song being placed or placeable by you?
Well, for Christmas, if it's negative. Now, I do take sad songs only if they're outright down and dirty blues tunes. Okay, I'll accept, because I have several blues Christmas tunes, and I've gotten them in TV shows and things like that. So that can be negative. Any other genre has got to be positive. Nobody wants to hear, we're homeless, we're out on the sidewalk, huddled by a fire, but we have Christmas. It's just a downer. Nobody wants to hear my baby left me and I'm feeling blue for the holidays. I even had a producer. Now, my Christmas song, Must Have Been the Mistletoe, is very positive, very happy, our first Christmas, more than we were dreaming of, old St. Nicholas had his fingers crossed we would fall in love. I had a producer tell me he doesn't do Christmas love songs, and I said, why not? He said, well, there's a lot of people who have lost their boyfriend or girlfriend or husbands and left them, and it just rubs it in. Now, I think that was an anomaly, because certainly it didn't hurt Merry Christmas, Darling. And there's Blue Christmas by Elvis. But in general, if your song is the slightest bit negative, it's a turn-off for most people. Don't write a Christmas song that's geographically specific. I have 3 holiday songs that are set in the islands. I've only placed one of them in a couple of print uses. If you write a song, Christmas in New York, or Christmas in Chicago, or Christmas in New Zealand might do well in New Zealand, but it's probably not going to be a worldwide hit. Don't write a Christmas song with a specific person's name. I remember Joan at Christmas.
Yeah.
Because the only people who are going to identify that are people that have friends named John.
Yeah.
So that's things to avoid.
No, only Santa.
Huh?
The only name is Santa, or maybe
yes,
his reindeers.
You can use Santa, or Saint Nick, or Mrs. Claus will be okay.
Yeah.
Well, personally, from a personal point of view, I don't take anything that's remotely suggestive. That's part of the reason I got out of the seasonal, the non-seasonal market. There is the message of Christmas is either about Christ or it can be about Santa. It can be about the commercialization. It can be about Frosty the Snowman. But, periodically I get these songs, I want to unwrap you under the Christmas tree. Not for me. Okay. Oh, one thing I would tell you also, now that the internet is, downloads are starting to become the buying choice of consumers rather than albums, you might be able to get away with more novelty songs now than you could 5 years ago. Before the advent of downloads, I didn't even sign novelty songs because nobody was doing novelty albums. A song like I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, the last major novelty song to surface in the U.S. was Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, released in like 1987. There hadn't been one in the next 20 years. But now that might be changing, so you can get away with the novelty songs. But if you're going to write a novelty song, you're probably not going to find an artist to do it. I was just talking to Patsy of Elmo and Patsy, who wrote or sang Santa Got Run Over by a Reindeer. They actually recorded the song as the artist, and they released it as an indie record. So if somebody writes something about Elmo, the arthritic elf, or something like that, it's probably going to be a labor of love that they need to then release themselves, put it up on CD Baby, iTunes, whatever, promote it through the internet, and try and launch that, and own the master, own all the publishing and all the master rights, as Elmo and Patsy did.
Sure.
Because you don't have those kind of artists. In the old days when we had Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you had people like Burl Ives and the Gene Autry who did kids' novelty stuff. You really don't have those kind of artists. There are some comedy artists out there, like Larry the Cable Guy and Jeff Foxworthy, who do, comedy albums. They've done comedy Christmas albums. But again, I've shopped to those projects, and they're all in-house. They are not even accepting outside material. They want to write their own comedy material and keep all the pennies.
Sure. Financial again.
So I wouldn't specifically set out to write a novelty song.
Okay. So in the majority of songs that you reject, what are some of the greatest areas of weakness that you're seeing?
Well, since I'm more of a lyricist than a composer, although because I just don't have theory behind me, I've written songs, all music and all lyrics, but mostly I pretty much hum the melody. So I'll start from a lyric standpoint. It's not a hard, fast rule, but you better have a darn good title. If I get songs endlessly, the Merry Christmas to You, it's Christmas time, and when I can't remember those songs 5 minutes after I've listened to them. But when I get a song like Warmer Than Snow, or The Fruitcake That Ate New Jersey, or my own title, It Must Have Been the Mistletoe, or, something that stands out, that piques your curiosity, Warmer Than Snow, that's an interesting comment, and it works beautifully the way the guy works it into the lyric. Something like that will get my attention. Now, I have songs that have very mundane, boring titles, but the song is so dazzling, you go with it in spite of the title.